Okay. I've got my wine here. Why is it that every time that I'm in this position, drinking wine, talking to this camera in this exact spot, and then all of a sudden, my cats have to go crazy? It's a certain time right now because I'm in the library. The library means something. We're gonna talk about books. That's right. I am joining the BookTube community. I've never dabbled in any of the BookTube stuff. I didn't know it existed. One of the people I am subscribed to, Jenny, everybody knows Jenny. Everybody knows Jenny now. Jenny, you're getting really popular. Like, I can't believe how popular you're getting. Even to this day, I have not really gone much into the BookTube thing. I haven't really looked up many videos. I looked up a couple, but not very many. So I really need to get into that. I think I was just afraid to look at someone's style too much because I wanted to start doing the BookTube videos, and I didn't want to end up like copying their style of how they do the BookTube. So I'm gonna wing it, and I don't really pay that much attention to other people's BookTube videos. So this is my first BookTube video, and you know what we're gonna call it? Book Time with Betsy. We're gonna call it Book Time. Book Time. I thought I would start by kind of talking about when I first got into reading. The people in my family have always been really big readers. I turned into one, but it wasn't until middle school that I actually started reading. There were a few that I would start and then I just never finished. One of the very first books that I can remember, if I'm trying to think back to like the very first book that I ever read all the way through on my own, it would have to be The Two Princesses of Bamar, or Bamare, or something like that. And I can't believe I still have this book, and it's in such good condition because I literally bought that, or I didn't, actually, okay, I'll tell you how I got it. I got this when it was probably around 6th grade. Does anyone else remember when you were a kid and your school would have these book catalogs? Like, I don't know, once a year or something like that. And I think you got them for free. That's how I got that book. I picked it out in a little catalog thing that I got through school, and I read it all the way through. I loved that book. I just realized that this author is the same one who did Ella Enchanted. I read that book too. That was a good one. So that was the first full-length book that I can remember choosing on my own accord that I willingly read and read all the way through with no problem. And did I mention that today is my birthday? Yeah, it's my birthday today. What better day to do my very first BookTube video than on my birthday? It's my 25th birthday, actually. 25. Isn't that a biggin? That's a biggin. We should probably go in chronological order of books that have happened in my life. So since I've already talked about the first book I ever read all the way through on my own, we're going to really quickly talk about required reading in school. It wasn't really until high school that I started reading a shit ton of books. Excuse my language. I'm gonna have to fill my wine glass up again already. So when I was a kid, I liked the fantasy stuff. And I still like the fantasy stuff. I know Harry Potter is, you know, everybody's top favorite list of books. But honestly, Harry Potter, it's up there, man. It's like up there, very, very near number one. Possibly number one. I can remember being in middle school and still kind of feeling like I enjoyed the more serious stories that I would read in school. There were things that we would read in class. They wouldn't have you read the whole book. They would have a textbook that had little tiny bits of really famous stories or whatever. And I can remember some of the more serious ones really intriguing me and really like pulling me in. I'm a type of person, I very much like the concept of collecting in a way. Same thing with books. I'm gonna buy a book and I'm gonna keep it forever. I don't give away books, I don't sell books, I don't donate books. So even if it's a bad book, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna read it I'm going to say, man, that sucked. And I am going to keep it. So far in my life, I have never, ever read a book that I thought was badly written or bad. Even Twilight. Because I know there's a lot of haters for Twilight. And honestly, for me, I'm very middle ground with it. Like, I don't even care. But I have all of them. So let's back this up a minute. Because I'm getting ahead of myself. Talking about books I plan to read. Because we are not talking about books I plan to read just of yet. We are talking about my past with books. So, one of the very first books that was required reading was this book. Does anyone recognize it? Does anyone remember this book? It is called Julie of the Wolves. Probably around 5th grade that they had that one in required reading. And the funny thing is, for one, we were not supposed to keep this book. I've had this book since I was a child. Stole it. Okay, I didn't really steal it, but I mean, I kind of did. Because I don't know, I lost it or I forgot to give it back or something. They assigned, I don't know, 10 pages a night, and I couldn't get the reading done. It wasn't until a few years later that I actually finished reading Julie of the Wolves. I may read it again sometime in my life, but it's not like a favorite or anything. Another required reading was The Great Gatsby. And The Great Gatsby, I actually freaking love too. It's another one of those kind of strange, sort of serious books that could be really boring to some people, but it was awesome to me. I loved The Great Gatsby, and it's been so long since I read it. I read it the same year that I read Love Medicine. Both books I hardly remember, but I remember that I loved them. So we're going to talk about a couple of things. Books I want to read in the near future. Since we're talking about like books that are required in school, I'm going to mention this one. It seems like everyone I know has read this book because it most likely has been required to be read during some time of your schooling. For whatever reason, whatever class I was in throughout my life, they didn't require this one. I bought this book not realizing that Bill already had a copy, but I heard this book is amazing and I would like to read this in the near future. Another one. I am ecstatic about this book. Don't ask me why, but I'm ready for this book. And that one is called Beware of Pity, and it's by Stefan Zweig, or Zweig. This is gonna sound crazy, but the reason I picked that book up is because my husband and I, we watched the Grand Budapest Hotel. We loved it. I wanted to know if there was a book that it was based on. So I looked up to see if the Grand Budapest was based on a book. Well, I found out that it's not really technically based on a book, but the director or the writer of the movie sort of based it on the writings of this author, Stefan Zweig. And since he said that he didn't base it upon a certain work of his, I figured, okay, I could probably pick up any work of this author and hopefully it's going to be awesome. So that is why I picked that book up. And I can't wait to read it. But I'm in the middle of reading something else right now. Another book that I am getting ready to read as soon as I can is going to be If on a Winter's Night a Traveler. When I picked this book up at the store, guy ringing us up said, "Oh man, I read that in college. I still don't know what he's talking about." I'm going to talk about this more along with a few other books in another video because I am running out of time now to talk about anything more. But I am going to be talking about this and a couple of other books in another video that's going to be centered around recommendations by the Joe Walker, and you guys aren't going to know who he is, but just wait until the next video and you'll know who I'm talking about. Real quick, before we end this video, I'm going to quickly tell you what I'm currently in the middle of reading. For one, I have to mention that I just finished reading Peter Pan because not once in my entire life have I ever read the classic Peter Pan. I'm finally like, alright, I gotta get the book and I gotta read it. I gotta know what the original story is like. Just so y'all know, Peter Pan, the book, it's kind of dark. It's pretty depressing. It ends pretty depressing too. And it depressed me. So I continued reading a different book. So currently I am in the middle of 100 Years of Solitude by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. So far, a lot of stuff happens constantly. Years pass. Constantly. Probably because it is called 100 Years of Solitude, so you've got to get through at least 100 years in that book. I just dropped it. I haven't got too far into it. So far, it's pretty interesting. Kind of confusing because a lot of the names sound the same and a lot of the names are the same. So it's kind of confusing trying to keep your characters straight and who is who. That is another one that is going to be in my next video because of reasons. Because it was a recommendation for me. And another book I'm currently reading because I'm reading more than one. And yes, it does happen. I'm currently reading Beauty and the Beast, which is not taking me that long because it is a pretty short book. Let me just say, I love Beauty and the Beast. I love the story. Oh my gosh, I love the movie so much. I just watched it today actually, and I watch it a lot. I have known the original story of Beauty and the Beast for a while, but I had never read it. I found this online. It was a little bit of a mistake because as I started to read it, I started thinking, this seems like it's been tampered with, because I tried to find the most original version of the story that I could because I wanted to read the original story. It says it's by this person, Madame Le Prince de Beaumont, but then you get to the inside of the book and it says it's adapted by Kathleen Reesey or whatever, and it seems like they kind of tamper with the story a lot, possibly even storyline, phrasing, whatever. I wanted the original story, but it's eBay, it was cheap, what are you gonna do? So those are the two I'm currently reading. I'm going to end my video on this. Bill got me this for Christmas because I read The Hobbit. I loved it. It was great. Loved The Hobbit. I have to say, so far, I'm probably more like a quarter of the way through, but I finished the first book, and I'm gonna be honest, I was a little bit bored. I never thought that would happen to me because there are so many people who love Lord of the Rings. Even Stephen King himself idolizes this guy right here. It was a little bit difficult to get through it even thus far. Maybe I was just tired during the times I was reading, but it was just a little too slow for me. And I never thought I would be that person that would not care that much about a book that so many thousands, possibly even hundreds of thousands, millions of people adore. I don't know. Anyway, I really gotta go because my camera is about to die in like 2 seconds. I hope you enjoyed this book time with Betsy, and there's more to come, so I hope you'll stick around and see what is to come in the next video.